Shalom, shalom. Welcome,
Shalom,
Shoshanna.
shalom.
Keats Jaskoll. Um, so we met about, I think, 5 years ago, and we did a pot. Yeah, I looked it up. I said, I wonder
Oh,
how
no, we
long ago.
didn't meet 5 years ago. We last did a podcast 5 years
Last
ago.
did
Okay.
oh yeah, no, we met last week. But we met 5 years ago to discuss about this week's parsha in Vayishlach,
Hmm.
Dina.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of stuff. If people want to check it out, you can. But we'll put it in the link. But the link in the comments. But when we did it at that time, I thought it was so appropriate to have you come and speak about Dina because you have become a face and a voice for women who have not been able to express that who they are and to be heard. And you've taken on that role. And so Dina, as we know, in the parsha, we don't hear her, we don't hear from her, we see things happening to her as we've discussed. We
Hmm.
don't hear her, and she doesn't feel apparently like
Yeah.
she's being seen because she goes out to be seen.
Yeah.
And these are issues that we believe led to went into the things that happened and the tragedies that occurred, and we discussed it very much. And when we talked about maybe doing this again, I was wondering, like, is it a little redundant? I mentioned to you, we already spoke about it. Is there more to say? And then two things came up. Was one thing that is always in my mind is this is still very much a problem. And if something is still very much a problem, even if we were to say the same things, which we're not going to, I believe it's very valuable because the conversation still needs to be had. People need to hear it. We need to really work on this. And that was one thing. And then what you said was more interesting is that a lot's happened in the last 5 years. And after everything that we've gone through with October 7th and the horrendous experiences, that you've seen things you have a broader perspective and you have more thoughts and ideas and I think much more to add to this conversation that is very valuable and definitely necessary to keep that discussion going. So like I really wanted to open this up with handing that over to you because you are very involved and you have definitely seen and heard way more than I have. And I would like to hear how you view now this story and the other things like you said in the Torah with a broader vision and we should discuss it. We'll start from there and see where that takes us.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny when we say, is it redundant? I mean, we read the same thing every year. And I know for me, and I think this is obviously God had this in the plan. When we live life, even when there isn't an October 7th, when you live life, you learn, you grow, you see perspective, you gain wisdom, you gain understanding, you gain different, outlooks and perspectives on the same thing. And that has tremendous value for you as a person to be able to understand things and for you as a person to be able to internalize and learn from those things. So I think there's always value in looking and reading something again or looking at something again when you get older. But certainly, as you said, after October 7th, there were simply things that were things that we didn't witness in life, things that we didn't think were still things. And it gave me a new understanding of a lot of aspects of womanhood in the Torah, right? Whether it's Dina, who's literally, just says she goes over to see the daughters of the land. Like they come to a new place. She only has brothers. She doesn't have friends. Well, we don't know if she has friends, but she's moved, right? Like any parent or any person who's experienced moving to a new place, the hardest part is not having friends. The hardest part is not having people that you know and feeling unfamiliar. So she goes out having only brothers. Her brothers are out in the field and doing the cattle, and she goes to see who are these people who are my new neighbors? Where am I? Where's my place in all of this? And unfortunately, we know she gets kidnapped, taken, raped. And for us, again, in the 21st century, yes, obviously we hear of God, I mean, there's sexual assault everywhere. But the idea of taking someone from the streets, a prince taking someone from the streets, and then saying, stay with me and be in my harem and it's okay. And then they go to Yaakov and they say, hey, we want your daughter. Like it's like and that's nuts to us. But yet after October 7th, the whole concept of going in and taking people, going in and stealing people, going in and bringing them because you feel you have the right to do so, it's not a 3,000-year-old concept anymore. It's something that we've all seen live on GoPro video on social media now. And so for me, I'm like, wow, it gives me a lot more reality for the story, and for the understanding perhaps of the perspective of Torah when it comes to women and the laws that we don't understand, whether it's sota, whether it's eshet yifat Torah, whether it's, commanding that a rapist has to offer to marry the woman he raped. Like, all of this stuff is so gross to us, and yet we don't live in that world. And so part of what helps me is to say, okay, what was going on in that world? What did that world look like? And why would the Torah say these things when we know the Torah is good? And that's my starting point.
Right. Yeah. There's so much to unpack in all of that. What's really hit me recently and recent years is, especially from what we experience in this country and throughout the world, is, and I think we spoke about it a little bit, but it's this whole attitude, I think, of entitlement. And you see it with Shem just taking Dina and then trying to, he does this horrendous act, and then he just tries to legitimize it. He thinks he can just take what he wants and then, go to Yaakov and somehow like just make it okay. And I think there's a lot of different reasons that go into sexual assault or rape or whatever. But I think a problem that we deal with, it's specifically, I mean, it's been a problem, I think, for us as, a nation also, is people wanting what we have and just trying to take it, whether it's theirs or not theirs, and that these acts of violence that ensue because of this kind of mentality of, I can take whatever I want, and, for some reason it belongs to me with no underlying reason for that. And then, of course, obviously we know there's, like I said, there's many different reasons for rape and sexual assault and all these horrendous things that go on. I think another thing that also I would like to address, and then I'll hand it over to you, is there's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of abuse we know that, abusers tend to abuse, and there's pent up aggression in the enemy because they as a people are abused. They are not seen as individuals. They're taken and used for a purpose of, the people that have their own agenda and whatever they want to accomplish, and they use their people for these purposes, and they have nowhere to take it out. So when they're given this permission, this green light on October 7th to do whatever you want, all that pent-up aggression also comes out, and they do these things, and it's because this is what they've seen. This they've seen done to them, and then they're looking for a scapegoat, somewhere to take it out, and then they take it out on, their perceived enemy for whatever reason. So I think that
I actually don't necessarily agree with everything that you just said.
Yeah. Okay. So I definitely want to discuss that. But I was just seeing, like, when I was giving like two perspectives of what I see as maybe going on, is taking something that doesn't belong to you and feeling entitled. And the second thing is, what I talk about as a cycle of abuse and an outlet for it. But I definitely want to hear your thoughts and why you don't agree with that. Go ahead.
So I think what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is that you're talking about the Gazans who came over on October 7th?
Yes.
Both Hamas and the civilians?
Yeah, anybody the civilians are specifically, but the Gazans, the civilians, and well, whoever perpetrated that had that green light, like go, they were told to do what, rape is part of the thing, and to go and to just, they were part of it, I think, was so violent and so horrendous, but that is unfortunately, that is a part of their culture. We see that they perpetrate violence against their own people. It's not, obviously we're the enemy, but it's not like they're not going to do these kind of things to their own people. They do. This is a problem that they have in their culture in general. People that have this problem, it comes out always. I don't think that anyone who doesn't have this kind of tendency or, psychological whatever, just does it to one type of people. I think it comes out wherever it can. You hear what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, and yet there is, yes, there's aggression, yes, there's cruelty, yes, there's dehumanization. The levels that we saw on October 7th, they don't perpetrate, well, there's Hamas, there's the Nukhba, terrorists who are like the elite trained, then there's the regular Gazans. Yes, there's a culture in general of, there's physical abuse and there's sexual violence, but I don't want to say that, this entire culture is like that. There is a tendency, it happens, but I wouldn't say it's everyone. And Sinwar, we have the documentation. Sinwar said, make it as violent and as horrific as possible and video it. He wanted to terrorize the entire country and the entire Jewish people so that people would say, we are going to die if we don't give in to them. And so that their colleagues, their new allies like Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad and everyone in the West Bank would say, let's join, right? Like a mob mentality when you see like a gang rape, basically. And so I think that it was definitely part of the strategy. They also trained them, they also drugged them. So there's a lot more going on than, just what they see and they do. Abusers do abuse, but this is a lot deeper than that, and to do it to the Jews is a holy thing. It's jihad. It's a holy war. And so I think that if you're going to, we're talking about what we see in terms of what we have to deal with, in terms of what we have to, the reality, right? We have to face our reality. What fascinates me is the whole interplay with Yaakov and Yaakov's sons, Dinah's brothers, and how they take revenge and take their sister out of Shechem's palace and decimate Shechem. They completely decimate Shechem. So they say, Yaakov waits for his sons to come home. He doesn't do anything. He waits for his sons to come home. The sons find out. They're out of their minds, pissed. And Hamor and Shechem are sitting there in Yaakov's tent saying, let us marry your daughters. They conspire with one another. They come up with an idea. They say, go circumcise yourselves. We can't do this. Shechem and Hamor and all of the city, all the men circumcise themselves. They come on the third day. Levi and Shimon come on the third day and slaughter everybody. Yaakov says, what did you do to me? What did you do to me? You have made me hated. If they all band together, they're going to come against me. And the brothers answer a very simple 4 words. Hakezona ya'aseh et achotenu. Were they going to make our sister a whore? And then Yaakov's quiet. Why? Because at a certain point, it doesn't matter that abusers were abused. And it doesn't matter that they may have been trained and cultured and this and that. This is what they did, and we have to respond to the reality of what they did. And Levi and Shimon, thank you, I keep saying Shechem, they understood that. They weren't going to wait and maybe this, maybe that. No, this is the line. And I feel that people often want to talk about, and rightfully so when it comes to community, rightfully so when it comes to helping people heal. But there's certain points where all of that doesn't matter. It's, should they treat our sister like a whore? Should they come into our villages and rape? Should they? No, we have to decimate. We have to decimate so it never, ever, ever can happen again. And that's what they did, right? And they're taken to task for it. Like, I'm not going to pretend they're not. Their anger is taken to task, and they're not allowed to settle next to one another when they get the land. And yet, they're called Dinah's brothers because they stood up for Dinah. And there's so much here. And one of the beautiful things about Torah is how we now can look at something that, as you said, we've done over and over again, and now maybe learning different things or different ideas or different, internalizing different things. And everything that you said is valid up to a point.
Yeah, I'm very happy with everything you said, and I agree with everything you said. And I'm going to go backwards, but I'm just first going to say is, I agree when you get to a certain point, there's what's reprehensible needs to be taken care of, for sure. And I don't know. I'll tell you, like, I'm on the fence, and I keep it throughout my life, and even it could be in within 1 hour, I go back and forth with, did they do the right thing or did they not do the right thing? With certain aspects of it, I don't agree with. But I'm saying the overall attitude of just destroying all of them. And I have different thoughts and feelings. I'm really ambivalent and different reasons for feeling different ways. And so, like, I'm not quick to say, well, I know most people are in one camp or the other. Yes, they did the right thing. No, they did. I'm not there. I'm not there. But and I do agree that once there's something so heinous, that action has to be taken. And for sure, that I agree with 100%. But at the same time, I think that two things can be at the same time. Yes, take action, destroy the evil. I believe in that for sure. I'm one of these rare people maybe that believe in the death penalty. I don't think if there's a terrorist, I believe in death penalty. Don't make them a little something to bargain with later. I'm very strict on that in my perception, but my beliefs and what I would do. Thank God I'm not in charge of this country. I'll just tell you that. But at the same token, two things could be at the same time. Take action for something that's been done, but we have, in order to ensure that certain things don't happen again, you also have to work on finding underlying causes for whatever it is that happens, why it happens within the enemy, within ourselves. Because you had mentioned before, even once that Shimon and Levi had taken course of action and destroyed all of them, and then we're told about the brothers coming in and taking their women and children, and I went in to look at it because I found these interesting parallels, because as we know in the story, right, when Yaakov was fleeing after from the house of Laban with his wife and children, and Laban catches up and he says, what did you do? Like, to treat my daughters and grandchildren like these captives taken by sword. And it's the same words that you see here with Shimon and Levi and or the brothers taking after punishing them with the sword and taking, it says captives, the same words, And I was thinking about that. I was thinking about how, what's the connection there? What's the connection in the way things happen? And like, I don't know what exactly the Torah is trying to tell us, but from my perception, trying to imagine what's going on. I think of Shimon and Levi, right? They're two of the olders. There's Reuben, Shimon, and Levi, and Shimon and Levi were the older children already by the time this scenario took place, where Laban caught up with them when they were fleeing, and they hear what's transpiring. This is their relatives whose home they were living in, and he obviously did have for all his evil ways, he had a very strong love. The Torah makes it clear for his children, his daughters and his grandchildren, that's for sure. And he was really, really hurt by that. It says in the Torah that Yaakov stole the heart of Laban. So, those are the words of narration in the Torah, we can take from God, right? So we see that act itself was not looked as, that was wrong, that the way he went about it, maybe he should have left, but he shouldn't have done it in the way that he did it, by stealing the heart of Laban. And when they catch up, and you have to think about Shimon and Levi hearing that this is what their father had done, like taking them captives with the sword, and him not saying, there's a lot of Yaakov not saying something. And I like that you brought it up here, because it says that he was silent until the sons came home. And I think what I learned from this and this silence when this happens, or when he didn't answer right on point with that other thing in front of his children, is that things happen when you're silent, when you shouldn't be, right? Like, I think right away when Shechem and Hamor came to him, and he knew what happened there, and he was outraged. Even though the children didn't come home yet, I don't know, he was waiting for them to stand up for this. I don't know what he was waiting for exactly, but he had to say right away, like that was not tolerable. He should have taken a stand right away, like not have let it gone that far, And I think also when Laban was talking to him, that those words went into them, and therefore they thought, all right, with our father did this act, and I think it goes in your consciousness, like that's like something that's kind of like acceptable to do. I'm bringing it's to an extreme what I'm saying, but I think that all words and all ideas go into our psyche, and that if their father did something that this kind of idea, it sits in, I think all of that sits in the subconscious of, you know, who we are and what we do, and
Mm.
that it's lying there. And I just think that the importance of whenever something's said to you, especially in a group of impressionable, you know, family members or friends or whatever, that anything that's said or done that's an outrage and wrong has to be challenged right away. Like, it doesn't get past the first conversation. Don't wait. You don't put a long pause there, because it festers, and then it gets to a point where it's difficult to put
Yeah.
it back in the box, you know?
I think there's a lot of parallelism in Breshit. Like anyone who wants to take a look and see about deception, about children, about women, it's tremendous the amount of parallels that happen. And you're right. Like I'm looking back at it now and it says, you know, why have you deceived me? Led my daughters away, like you said, captives of the sword. I would have sent you out. Now, we're taught forever that Lavan is the greatest trickster in the world, and he changed Yaakov's wages a million times, whatever. And then, you know, we're told two wrongs don't make a right, and da 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 da. So, could Yaakov have done it differently? Should Yaakov have done it differently? There's deception all throughout Breshit, right? There's deception in terms of Rivka and the bracha, and why Rivka never tells Yitzchak about you know, the prophecy that she gets from God, so that Yisrael could be in on it. I don't know. I don't have an answer. Why everything is done through deception. Why Rachel steals her father's idols, doesn't tell Yaakov about it. Then he winds up cursing her. Like the idea behind this lack of communication, to me, the whole Breshit is about how nobody communicates well. Like I feel like that's like a big lesson for me. But yeah, but this, all of this shows the way that the world was back then, like in a tragic way. Like as a female, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. The fact that Lavan even asked Rivka if she would go with Eliezer is huge, right? They said, well, let's ask her what she wants. And they ask her and she answers that she wants to go. That's huge. And I think the Torah puts it there for a reason. Lavan doesn't let Yaakov marry Rachel, Rivka first, because Leah's older and we don't do that. Now, he does it with deception. He doesn't do it well. He doesn't
Right.
do it right. But I agree with you that he acts to defend or protect his daughters in the way that he sees fit. And it's hard for me to think of him as totally evil like we're supposed to at the Seder, because like you said, you know, he does at least care for his family. He tries to take care of them in the way that he can. But yes, this is all, it's so, the intrigue, the deception, the wording. If you don't read Torah in Hebrew, you're missing everything, right? You
Oh,
have
for
to read it
sure.
into Hebrew. Even if you're doing translation at the same time,
Right.
take the time to do it, because the beauty of the language that's used, the hints that you get from the repetitive language all the time is massive. Look at the deception every time Avram and Yitzchak try to tell the local king, whether it's the Paro or Avimelech, that their wife is their sister. Like there's tons of deception especially when it comes to women's relationships, and it's something with humility we have to look at,
Yeah.
with a little bit of humility. And like, you know, for me it's like, I don't know, I'm overwhelmed. I just get
Yeah.
very overwhelmed sometimes when I look at
Yeah.
this stuff.
I think you have the answer in the first step into, you know, making it less overwhelming, and that's for me is looking specifically at the words that are used in the Hebrew, because I think that, you know, we lump it all in as deception. There's a lot of deception going on, but there's clear demarcations when it's perceived as something being 100% wrong, because with oh no, okay, with when I said with him steal, it says Yaakov stole the heart of. So if the narration is telling us this word, we know Geneva is wrong in the Torah. We're told about not doing Geneva. But in the stories, like when you have the other stories, let's say with Abraham saying Sarah's sister, and then when he was challenged about it, he said, well, she really is my sister, you know, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. Like, and then you see like there's room, wiggle room for why it was done, how it was done, and the reason it was done, and could have something been done better? Maybe not. But then here, it's the words are telling us specifically that it was wrong. So I feel like if you look very carefully at the stories, there are hints, in all the Pesukim telling us whether it's, a black and white thing or not such a black and white thing.
Well, the interesting thing is what you're saying. If I'm finding the pasuk that you're saying, I think it's Lavan that says it, Dafka, but it's only in the Hebrew. It's
No,
not in the
yeah, but
English.
go before the story. Okay, you're in by Yetzer, right? So before Lavan says it, where you see that, I'll tell you in Perek Lamed Aleph, right?
Hmm.
Um, in Pasuk Chaf, Pasuk Chaf, Vayignov
Yeah.
Yaakov et Lev Lavan ha'arami, al bali higilo ki barechu. You see
Ah,
that?
yeah.
So that's the narration. That's not Lavan saying it. That's the
Nachon,
pasuk
nachon.
itself.
He says it after. I didn't go back far enough.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like that's a clear indication there that was not right. Whereas, like, if you look
And I
at
would like to just say,
yeah,
I would like to say that it's wrong. The translation is wrong. The people who
right,
translated this are wrong in not translating it accurately.
right,
Because any translation is always a commentary. That's just the
yes,
way it is when you
100%,
translate. But
100%.
this is like, because just for the readers or for the listeners, the English is translated as Jacob deceived Lavan the Aramean by not telling him that he was fleeing. But like as you said, the Hebrew is Vayignov Yaakov et Lev Lavan.
Right,
Yaakov stole his heart.
right.
And not putting that there. And then you can comment afterwards, but by not putting it there, you're already giving us, and I personally don't agree with that. I have a big problem with that, and I have a big problem with people saying that like, Midrash is the same as black and white Torah. It's not.
Right.
Just so you know where I'm coming
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. If it was the same in my mind's eye, it would be there in the Torah. It can't be the same by definition, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
Right. And yeah, very interesting. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Sometimes I'm like doing this so fast that I don't see these things and I don't do my own. I don't do what I say everyone else should do, which is
Right.
to
You know
read
what it
all
is?
the words in the Hebrew.
It's hard to focus on everything at once. And like a lot of time we're looking at ideas, so we're laser focused on that idea so
Mm.
that the other things go to the periphery. So it's hard to see everything at once. Like each pasuk, each word, each letter that's omitted or extra letter that's in there, it's everything is to be expounded upon. That's why it's the Torah is so genius and there's just so much. And I don't think anyone can be expected to see everything all the time. But I do think there's a lot in there and I'm like very careful with like I don't know necessarily always I don't say something's right or wrong unless I like see it specifically or I can only see what I can gather from the rest of the things that I'm told is at this point. But that changes with the more you understand, like you say, in life and the more you understand the Torah and it's like forever evolving. But it's really, really a difficult thing. And I wanted to go back because I think, I've sidetracked and you were making like so many really good points about, you know, when something happens that's evil, you got to right away, I feel you got to take care of that, and
Hmm.
stop that, you know. Um, but at the same time, like I think it's just so important that we talk about it, and I think you do this. So I mean, whatever, but if we don't understand like underlying root causes of things, there's no way we can't just constantly be, whack-a-moling things. Like we have to like get
Yeah.
at the core root of problems. And
Hmm.
um that's why I get very overwhelmed. I don't like to totally despair, but I'm like very overwhelmed because the way of the world today and the path in which we're going and in everything being not black and white and not and entitlement and all these things that seem to be getting worse. I think that's like so problematic because it's raising so many more problems, making so like you said, why should we be thinking about these things in today's day and age? When we were growing up, we only thought, the world's becoming a better place. We never thought we'd be going backwards. And how does that happen even? How does that happen to like America the Beautiful, people with the open minds and great ideas and only we think things are on an upward trajectory and then we're seeing what's going on now. It just blows my mind. It blows my
Mm.
mind. So we have to try and understand why is this happening? What's the deterioration of people, of value for life, of taking somebody people. We should all have agency, and taking things from somebody else that's not yours to take in violent manners, no less. It blows my mind. I don't understand it, and I really want to try and get at some of the core issues and like start from when we're young. So that yes, we gotta whack them all now, but while we're doing that, let's raise a better generation that we don't have that. Whatever caused it, we got to figure that out. You know.
Well, I mean, okay, let's just solve all the real problems.
Yeah.
Let's just go for it. In the 3 minutes we have left. Um, I think that there is, depending on the country you're talking about, depending on the culture you're talking about, right? But so if you're talking about America, so you have a perfect storm. You have a perfect storm of oppressor oppressed, which is, by the way, Soviet propaganda, right? Like all of a sudden, well, the USSR is now in America. You have two people, oppressor and oppressed. That's all you can be. There's nothing in between. And obviously the Jew doesn't fit either one. So we put them in the oppressor because that's the way the world works now. Brown, white, black, white. Like this is all just dichotomy. And then when you label someone an oppressor, so then everything they have was gotten by illegitimate means. And so it's not theirs rightfully. So I can take it. It was taken from me. I'm the oppressed, or I'm the hero who's going to help the oppressed take back from the oppressor. It's a Robin Hood idea, right? So you don't have to, it's not the thing. It's not the thing. It's the person I'm dehumanizing, the person I'm delegitimizing, and therefore everything I do to that person or that people or that nation is legitimate. And that is the Jew, that is Israel, right? That is the way it is. And so add to that the American concept of race, which does not fit the Jew. You have a perfect storm of social media clips, people who don't learn history, people who really don't care about context and nuance, and you have a perfect, useful idiot army to save the oppressed. Before we started talking, I was on social media, and there's a ceasefire now, right? Things are far better than they were 2 months ago, and there's a ceasefire. And there are currently in London, on the streets of London, in front of stores that have nothing to do with anything of the conflict, they are chanting for an intifada. Because it's not about the Gazans, and it's not about the Palestinians. It's about their desire for a world order where they are in charge, where the elites, where the oppressors are taken out, and they are sowing chaos because chaos serves them. That's it. That's the whole answer in a nutshell of the issue of what's going on in the world. And I would say, unfortunately, social media shows the worst of it. Mm-hmm. I think there are a lot of people who understand that this is a problem. I hope those people learn to organize and fight because it's not simply Israel. The whole West is going down.
You know what? I think this is like you said, so many problems that we're not going to solve in these 2 minutes. But I love where you're going with this because I think the way to end what we're saying is, and where we started is, the problem is what we say, Jaskoll. The problem is that you said, the problem is we hear the noisy minority that's out there, taking control of the social media. But that's always been the case. Every great person, from Martin Luther King to whatever, to whoever, has said that people can't, they're very busy in their lives, and we stay silent thinking that it's just the crazies and it's going to blow over, But if we always just think it's just the crazies it's going to blow over, we've seen how that's panned out in history. Never will. We have to have the good people in the middle there that know that they're crazy, get up and speak and not let it just scroll over the idiocy on your thing, because it's important regardless to stand up, to say something, and not to wait for somebody else to say something. Maybe like Yaakov was waiting for the sons to come and take care of it. No, everybody, when you hear it, when you see it, it came to you, speak up, speak out, speak against. And that's a good starting place, I would say.
I think it's vital. I mean, in Chokhmat Nashim, that this is what we talk about all the time, is that if the silent majority is silent, we lose to the extremists. And that's what we see happening all the time. If we don't hold our middle ground, right? If we don't hold the positive, the middle, the safe ground, the safe space, if we don't hold back the darkness, so the darkness is going to come in. We have to actively be the moderates. We have to actively hold the Shvil HaZahav. That's what Judaism is all about. It's like not being extreme, not being left, not being right. That's the whole point. And in the work that we do, when we talk about the extremism, it's like, oh, it's not such a big deal. Oh, it's just a picture. Oh, you're just sitting in the back of the bus. Oh, women, it's okay if women aren't on the board. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. It actually has terrible consequences. Let's just avoid those horrible consequences instead of having to try and fix things. What is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's true. It's true. If you teach your children to be respectful, and then I'm talking about everything from the way they speak to adults to not peeing on someone's tree and going to a bathroom instead, don't get me started, then your child will not then have to relearn behavior afterwards. You won't have to be going to the principal's office. You won't have to be wondering why he or she is exploding in anger because you've helped them along the way. You have to be Judaism is proactive. Judaism is about being and doing and thinking. We've become very passive. We've become very willing to just go with the flow and be told what to do. And this is the opposite of what Torah is. Why do we read every week? Why do we have positive commandments and negative commandments? It's not enough. You have to both search justice, right? Tzedek, tzedek, tildof. Doesn't mean like when something comes to you, be good. You have to pursue justice. This is an active religion. And that means not being silent in the face of injustice. It means lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. It means speaking out, and it means keeping your community healthy, not just trying to deal with the terrible consequences when you didn't step up in the first place.
I mean, you said it better than I could. I'm not even going to add to that because I think perfect, perfect. And I just want to say, if you want to talk about, before we leave, to bring up Laura and what you're doing in her memory, and that everyone should know so they can join on, if you just want to take 1 minute to tell the audience
Sure.
about that. And we can put that link
Thank you.
also in the comments.
So Laura Ben David, as you may or may not know, was a superstar in the Anglo-Israeli community. She was my BFF and my person and an original Chochmat Hashim board member. She took at least half of the pictures in the Jewish Life Photo Bank, which is a stock photo bank of women and girls and men all around the Jewish world to visibly represent the whole community and fight our erasure. In her honor, we are honoring women who for the past 2 years have upheld this nation, the rescuers, the savers, the advocates. We're coming together on December 23rd in Jerusalem. Registration is open. Please join us. It is going to be a magnificent event honoring women and their contributions to this nation and honoring Laura and her legacy.
Okay, and just to be clear, is this men are allowed to join and
Absolutely.
honor as well? It's not
Yes.
a women's thing because people might get confused thinking it's honoring women, it's women for women, but that men are very welcome
Very
and
welcome.
should definitely join, and
Yes.
it'll be something else, I'm sure of it. So everybody sign
It'll
up.
be a good tikkun for men to be there.
A good tikkun. It's a good place to do your part.
Thank you.
Anyways, thanks so much, Shoshanna, and I wish you good luck on your trip and in all your work. May God be with you.
Thanks, Aliza.
And thanks for the discussion.
Thank you, honey.
Be with.
Love ya.
Love you.